O-O-Y. Let's ride.
What are you doing?
Foursquare Sports!
Hey, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is?
Hump day?
What? Shout out to the old Geico commercial. Anyways, welcome to Foursquare Sports on a Wednesday. The club does not go up on a Wednesday. Anyway, Matt Sirianni, Kevin Zaleskovich, Alec Nava, John Welch. Here on a Wednesday, there's a reason why for that. I'm going to explain everything towards the end of the episode of what's going on. But it's all good stuff. Plus, I love doing sports talking on Wednesday. How's everyone doing?
Up and down the roller coaster of emotions watching sports.
I bet, man. Honestly, there's some times where I feel like a roller coaster of emotions with a bunch of things. But anyway, we're going to start off with the National Football League. Usually we go to the NFL last, but because the trade deadline happened yesterday, there's a lot to get into. I'm just going to list several of the trades that have happened and maybe even more depending on what I can find on this long list of acquisitions that were done just yesterday. So, some of the trades to highlight. Sauce Gardner was traded to the Indianapolis Colts for 2 first-round picks. Rashid Shaheed was traded to the Seahawks, which I think John called not too long ago. Jacoby Myers was traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Logan Wilson was traded to the Dallas Cowboys. The Philadelphia Eagles acquired not 1, not 2, but 3 defensive players. Jalen Phillips, Michael Carter II, and Jair Alexander. And the New York Jets, wheeling and dealing, they trade Quentin Williams away to the Dallas Cowboys. Just some of many moves that have happened at this deadline. Now, obviously, the New York Jets have already accepted their fate. They're probably tanking the season away and just saying, you know what, wait till next year. And then there are other teams like the Saints. Obviously, traded Rashid Shaheed away, which I thought was a very underrated acquisition. But to me, I think this is the case of the teams that are throwing in the towel have thrown in the towel, and the teams that are playoff contenders have improved. And I think that this is what, like, for example, the Seahawks look good. The Colts, best team in the NFL right now by record. Getting Sauce Gardner was huge, among other things. So, John, when they come to you, of all these acquisitions, and even the ones I didn't mention, what acquisitions do you think stand out the most in your mind?
First of all, Matt, the thing I can't get out of my head is the image of your face as a camel after that hump day intro. But so I have been begging the Seahawks to go after Rashid Shaheed. I wanted a direct trade because in my mind, the chess pieces that make the most sense were for the Seahawks to give up Devin Witherspoon, who's on the bench. He's a Pro Bowl player who's sitting on the bench because that's how stacked the Seahawks are in the secondary right now.
Yeah.
And they're better with him off the field than they are when he's on the field. And that would be a piece that New Orleans could have used in this rebuild that they're going to be experiencing the next couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely wanted Rashid Shaheed. I've been wanting a solid X wide receiver since the draft, as you guys know. I didn't expect JSN to line up all over the field and go off the way he has. 6 100-yard games in a row now.
Incredible.
I think the next move is to cut Cooper Kupp, who has been disappointing this year.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need him after picking up Rashid Shaheed. We have JSN, we have Torrey Horton, who went off this weekend, and Rashid Shaheed, and those are our top 3 wide receivers as far as I'm concerned, with depth behind them. So I like the trade. I like that. I think a 4 and a what do we give? A 4 and a 5 or a 4 and a 6. I'm perfectly fine with that. We still have a little bit of draft capital. I wouldn't be surprised if in the off season we're dealing players that we don't need, just depth pieces that we don't need to get picks back.
And you know what? I think at the end, if you're not giving up too much capital and you're getting good players like Rashid Shaheed for a 4th or 5th or a 4th and 6th, whatever it was, that's a really good deal, in my opinion, because Rashid Shaheed, for what it's worth, is, I think, the second best receiver on the Saints. I mean, behind Chris Olave, of course, but Rashid Shaheed's got that breakaway speed. He's a deep threat, something that the Seahawks could very well use, because Jackson Smith-Njigba, like you mentioned, has been doing it in every way, shape, or form. Deep, short, medium, you name it. He's been their number one guy on the receiving corps, bar none. And I think that Rashid Shaheed's a good compliment to that. But you mentioned Cooper Kupp, how disappointing he's been. I think his best days are kind of far behind him at this point. It sucks to say that, but it's absolutely true. The Seahawks are looking like a team that could contend for the NFC West at this point in the year. I think they could very well win the NFC West at this point in the year. But they got to put themselves over the top, and I think they've done just that. But now on the other side of the coin, and Kevin, this is something I want to discuss with you because you know this very well. The New York Giants know that Jackson Dart has been really good so far this year. Cam Scottaboo gets hurt. No Malik Neighbors. Wan'Dale Robinson's our best receiver. We don't have a lot of talent around him. And Joe Schoen, what have you done so far this offseason? And what have you done at the deadline? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, there were also rumors going around that Joe Schoen thought the deadline was today when that was not true. Whether or not that is valid.
Fake.
It's fake. Yeah. So it was fake. But the Giants knew that if they were going to at least look good next season, they could have made some moves, and they did absolutely nothing. Joe Schoen just sat there on his hands and just let the deadline go by. Now, as a Giants fan, I'll tell you this right now, this is very disappointing. I think that this is just the death toll for, I think, him and maybe even Brian Daboll and definitely Shane Bowen. Like, the Giants season has not been ideal, and to lose 2 of your star offensive players and not help your young up-and-coming quarterback, I thought was absolutely disrespectful and not acceptable at all. I mean, the Giants aren't going to go anywhere this year, but still, it would have been nice to put in a little bit of effort around your young quarterback. Kevin, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, you pretty much summed it up. I'm like, doing nothing is crazy. Like, because, listen, I understand, like, if, like, Jalen Waddle was, like, a big reach, if the pricing, asking price was too much, I understand that, like, not wanting to give up a first rounder for him because you never know. But at the same time, I mean, like, you have receivers on this team who haven't done anything. Like Jalen Hyatt, for example, could have traded him to get at least like a pick or something like that, but you didn't get anything. Like that's the frustrating part. It's not the fact that we didn't get any help for Dart for the rest of the season, because now with not getting a receiver, then like you're just going to let Dart like struggle with like the weapons that he has. I mean, like it's pretty much going to be like Wan'Dale, Slayton, and Theo Johnson. Like pretty much the entire rest of the season are going to be the main targets for the rest of the season. So, and then you open the question, like if you're Joe Schoen, like why wouldn't you at least try to plan for next season by acquiring draft picks and then getting rid of players that are not being utilized? Like I know Evan Neal was like a piece that was rumored to be like traded, wasn't traded. I would have been fine if he was traded, because honestly, like I feel like he's been lackluster ever since he's been here, to be perfectly honest with you.
He really has.
Exactly. So and Jalen Hyatt's barely done anything. And like even Deontay Banks, like he struggled. Tyler Nubin, he struggled. Could have used those guys as pieces to trade away. I mean, you've heard all the talk that like Kayvon Thibodeau might be traded. I didn't believe that for a second. I think that the Giants are probably going to extend him, if I had to guess. But yeah, not doing anything to improve the team for the rest of the season. Listen, I know we're 2-7, and we're not going anywhere. Not going to make the playoffs. Not do anything. But not even getting a draft pick out of anything, or even getting just a tiny like player, a receiver, like a tiny piece to help Jackson Dart out. Like I understand, like we picked up Ray McLeod, the Falcons receiver, like a few months ago. Then give him more reps. put him in the games more if that's what you're going to go out and set out to do. Because if you're not going to do anything at the trade deadline, then you have to maximize the pieces that you do have. And it's not even like not making the trades or not getting a pick. But another thing is they had made no firings, no changes to the coaching staff. Like they are firmly set on keeping Shane Bowen for the rest of the season. That's blasphemy to me, because Shane Bowen has been dreadful this season. And the fact that he still has a job after that Broncos game and the Eagles game and the past game that we just played is inexcusable. Like I don't get why they didn't even do that. Just change some of the coaches around or do anything of that nature, but they didn't do anything. So now I feel like Dable, I think, is for sure gone at the end of this season, regardless of how good Jackson Dart looks, because he's been amazing so far, despite all this. And Joe Shane, I feel like he's fine, but that's just me. But I'm so disappointed that the Giants just decided to like sit back, relax, and do nothing, but not at least try to do something to improve the team or look towards the future for this team. Doing nothing is crazy.
It's just disappointing because if Jackson Dart was giving your team a spark, why don't you just feed off of that and build off of that and actually put some effort into your team? And like you said, I think Brian Dable is definitely gone at the end of the season. Whether or not Shane Bowen and Joe Shane get fired, like I think Mike Kafka might return to the staff next year.
He can stay.
Mike Kafka can stay because he's done a really good job with Jackson Dart, and I give him a lot of credit for hanging in there. I mean, originally with Russell Wilson, we were ready to kill Mike Kafka, but he's bounced back with Jackson Dart. And I think that's the most important thing. Whether or not you make him our head coach next season or keep him as the offensive coordinator, I don't know what you do with him, but he's got to stay on the staff. That's how I feel about Mike Kafka. Then there were other acquisitions. The Pittsburgh Steelers didn't really do much to begin with. Am I correct, Alec?
We didn't get anyone.
That was very, very, very disappointing because Pittsburgh right now is on the point where they could potentially win the AFC North if, in fact, the Ravens don't come back. Because right now the Ravens are lurking in the shadows, trying to plan their comeback and trying to get first place back in the AFC North. They haven't really done that, Pittsburgh, to really put the final touches on the fact that, we can be a contender this year and maybe win the division. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has looked good at times. The defense has looked good at times. But Pittsburgh is kind of just there. Do you think they missed out on an opportunity to maybe build upon what they got?
Wide receiver 2 is one of the biggest needs because Calvin Austin, we used him primarily in the slot for what it's worth. But this was a huge miss on an opportunity to get a wide receiver 2. The chance was there with Jacoby Myers. We saw him go to Jacksonville for a 4th and a 6th. Now, granted, Jacksonville is an understandable fit for Myers. Why is this? Travis Hunter's on the IR. And it's a hope for Jacksonville, which they can improve the production from Trevor Lawrence, which we needed to get from Las Vegas. But I know historical rivalries may be a thing, but at least try to put the rivalry aside for a bit and try to get a wide receiver 2 because we needed that. And that is coming off a 6-turnover game against the Indianapolis Colts when I was not expecting us to beat the Colts, but getting 6 turnovers and only escaping by 7 points is a red flag. Yeah, I don't care if the Colts scored 10 points in garbage time. The fact that this was even a 7-point game to begin with, despite getting 6 turnovers, is a red flag on this team. Because we cannot win by 7 points and get 6 turnovers in a game. Because if you get 6 turnovers in a game, you expect to win by a lot more than that. This is where wide receiver 2 needs to be the big need. It has to be done, Omar Khan. Don't sit back right there and pretend everything is fine because clearly it doesn't seem like it, despite the win over the Colts.
Like, the Steelers have the potential to be good. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers could have done more. I think they left a lot on the table. I think they really did. Like, the point of the deadline is for teams that are on the cusp of being a contender to improve. And Pittsburgh didn't really do that. That's how I feel. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last several years, I feel like they're just content being with what they are. That's how it's been. for a while. Like for instance, after the playoff loss to the Ravens last year, you heard a report from Brooke Pryor saying the Steelers were acting like as if it was the last day of school and they were just saying goodbye and getting ready for the offseason like it was nothing. Like there needs to be a fire up their ass, and right now there isn't.
Yeah, this is what I've been seeing from the Steelers the last few years, that we're just content with just playoffs. No team should ever strive to be the Minnesota Wild of the NFL, where you're just content with just playoffs. You're thinking more. You're thinking the Super Bowl. Look at the other teams in the AFC. The Chiefs always think Super Bowl. The Bills always think Super Bowl. Why not be up to that standard right now? The goal is number 7. The goal has always been number 7. So you got to pony up to catch up to the Chiefs and Bills, not just stand pat. And even a fully healthy Ravens team, you have to pony up to catch up to a fully healthy Ravens team. No matter the questions with defense and John Harbaugh.
John, you wanted to say something about this?
Pittsburgh is one of the most confusing franchises to me. It was agonizingly frustrating to watch them go all off season in this slow roll, slow burn romance with Aaron Rodgers, and then finally sign him right before training camp.
Yep.
And then they made some really interesting moves on their defense. They have the oldest defense in the league, and they are about to go through a rebuild that I don't think that they understand that they should be getting ready for. I mean, how many years are they going to be content to be a 9-win team? Because it's been more than 6. And I don't see them getting past that until they get that fire that you were saying, a sense of urgency to actually start transforming this team and acquiring picks and drafting and building the team into an AFC North dominating team. They're not there. I don't see them headed in that direction the way that I would be.
Yeah, it's disappointing because Mike Tomlin is a former Super Bowl winning head coach. He's been with the organization since 2007. You figured that passion would still be there. And right now, I'm just not feeling it from Pittsburgh. And I honestly think that Mike Tomlin, as great as he is, as consistent as he is, has kind of slacked off a little bit. And Pittsburgh deserves better than that.
This feels like a similar case with Mike Sullivan with the Penguins, where good coaches that you have, but they're past their expiration date and you need a change in coach. The Penguins moved on from Sullivan after last season, and we're looking good under Dan Muse as their new head coach. We need the same energy up at the front office and finally admitting that we have to move on from Tomlin. And it's a mutual split between the two of them. Go out on better terms.
Yeah.
It's a long friendship between us. Won a Super Bowl under him with one of the best defenses ever, and I'll keep saying that.
Yeah.
But time's going past. It's the natural cycle of the NFL.
Yeah. That's how I feel. I think at some point down the line, maybe at season's end, we'll probably see the end of an era in Pittsburgh. And honestly, it might need to come more than ever. Another thing I wanted to get into when it comes to the NFL, and these are some questions that John actually brought as a potential thing that could happen. And I'm going to stick to Arizona on this one because John brought up as a potential possibility. Kyler Murray was not dealt away at the trade deadline. But if you watch Monday Night Football, Jacoby Brissett led the Cardinals to their first victory since week 2. And it was at home in Dallas in front of Jerry Jones's face, our favorite guy in the NFL. And the Cardinals looked good. They looked good, I'll be honest. Now, there's rumors out there that maybe this is the end of the Kyler Murray era. Jacoby Brissett looked good throwing the football. I mean, listen, this offense with Jacoby Brissett was not prolific with Jacoby Brissett, but it's definitely looks better than with Kyler Murray. Like, this team might need a change. And whether it be Jacoby Brissett long-term, which I don't think is a permanent solution, or you go to the draft board and maybe draft one and maybe make Brissett your bridge quarterback, that's what people in Arizona are thinking. John brought this up. John, why'd you bring that up?
Well, it was really interesting watching the New York Jets. Absolutely, hands down, won the deadline yesterday with all the picks that they acquired. But what's fascinating to me is they're gonna end up probably with the first round, the number one pick.
Yeah.
My
They
problem my problem is I don't see a New York Jets franchise quarterback in this round of QBs in this class. And that leaves open the door for them shopping around and using those picks to trade for a quarterback that would actually fit their scheme. And Kyler Murray is the one that makes the most sense to me. He's a better Justin Fields. He's a little bit younger, about the same age as Justin Fields.
Yeah, something around that.
And I think he would be a better fit for that scheme in the long run, as they kind of build around him, waiting for Manning and the year after next or something down the line. So that's just how my mind is unraveling the situation, because the other news was that they basically are putting him in bubble wrap. Like they announced excuse me, today, that Brissett would be QB1 versus the Seahawks. So I don't understand what's going on. The joke of the day was that Call of Duty comes out on the 14th. So
Well, he's IR, so he'll be sidelined for several Call of Duty rounds.
Well, I think they put him back on IR.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So
he's
that's
sidelined for the next 4 Call of Duty rounds.
So that's just an interesting thing to keep an eye on. And then I didn't know if you were going to bring up Dallas or not, but they lost yesterday. I don't understand how you get all this trade capital from Green Bay and then spend it on a defensive lineman, and then somehow your team gets worse.
Yeah.
He has 1 sack this year, and I think he's 90th at his position in pass rushing.
Correct.
And that's not what you need. That's not what that team needs. Congratulations on being able to stop the veer.
Seriously, the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones just seem to amaze me every single passing year. They do something stupid, and then they continue that trend some way, somehow. Listen, Jerry Jones, as much of an icon as he is in Dallas, as much as an icon as in the NFL, his time is clearly passing by. But doing this, you give up some of your draft capital that you got from the Micah Parsons trade to get another defensive lineman who's not even doing that good this year. I mean, granted, Jet fans loved Quinnen Williams, but Quinnen Williams is not it. He ain't no Micah Parsons.
He's not even Trey Hendrickson.
No,
But
which is another person
run?
I thought the Dallas Cowboys would target. They didn't even get Trey Hendrickson. They got Logan Wilson from the Bengals.
Well, but can they improve the run? And I'm asking this jokingly.
This franchise just amazes me. They really, really do. I don't understand. But
the Bengals have the 31st best defense in the league, and the Cowboys have the 32nd best team in the league. So when you go and get their linebacker, when you go and get the 31st best team's linebacker, that doesn't make your team better.
No, it doesn't.
It's like the video of 2 clowns fighting one another.
Seriously, that's what this is. It's just so disappointing.
My favorite meme after the trade deadline yesterday was, if the Bengals and the Cowboys played each other, it would be 105 to 108.
that'd be some game. No one's gonna be able to cover anybody, and there's gonna be no defense. But it could be fun for offensive purposes.
Well, yeah.
What?
I mean, we can expect 60 to 57 final score.
Yeah, take the over on that one for sure. Take the over on that one. But another game, and I mentioned overs. There was a game between the Bears and the Bengals earlier in week 9 that went 47-42. We mentioned the Bengals. What kind of tackling was that on Colson Loveland in the middle of the field? Colson Loveland just bounced off of 2 tacklers and just ran into the end zone. The Bears got the big win, but the Bears should have lost this game. That was the amazing thing to me.
That was a shootout of a game.
Dude, no defensive coordinator is ever going to save the Bengals defense.
Nope.
Doesn't matter if it's Lou Anarumo or Al Golden. If your personnel is bad, this is the end result you're going to end up with.
100%. And
coupled with the fact that you just traded away one of your best tacklers in Logan Wilson, so that doesn't help your case at all either.
And
they don't even utilize him a lot anymore.
They don't. The Bengals don't do anything with their star defensive players. That's what sickens me. And I guarantee you at the end of the year, Zach Taylor's probably a goner.
I bet so, yeah.
You want to truly guarantee it?
I don't know if I want to guarantee it, but I would gather
Indiana wins the Big Ten. I'm not going to do that again because then I might have to get bean boozled twice.
Oh my god!
I'm not going to do it. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to get to Major League Baseball, and this is where actually stuff gets serious now. Game 7. Last time we did the Four Square Sports, it was Game 7 of the World Series. In 11 innings, the Los Angeles Dodgers are back-to-back World Series champions. And it came because Jeff Hoffman blew a save at the expense of Miguel Rojas. And then in the 11th inning, Will Smith, not Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Will Smith, but Will Smith, who's won 6 consecutive World Series, hit a home run in the 11th to give the Dodgers the lead 5-4. And then here we are. Now, in defense, and I've been acting like a jerk towards my friend Laurel Antonio. And Laurel, you're my good friend, but you need to hear this out. This is not the best thing for Major League Baseball. And I mentioned the deferred payments that the Dodgers have been doing. I mentioned, acquiring the Dodgers with these massive contracts that they can't even afford. And even though they're a great team, and Shohei Ohtani is proving to be the glazed golden boy, it's still one of those things where you just don't want to see it. I mean, Yoshinobu Yamamoto won World Series MVP. That was well-deserved. But it's just not ideal for the sport because think of it, CBA negotiations are going to happen at the end of next season. The Dodgers will probably win again, which God help us if that happens. And it's just like, the sport needs a salary floor. We need a salary cap. We've discussed all that. And overall, it was a great World Series. And Major League Baseball's popularity has gone up. We've seen it in the ratings. I think Game 7 of the World Series had 50% more attendance and more of a draw than Game 7 of the NBA Finals. That's astounding to me.
Average viewership of 51 million viewers that Game 7.
That's crazy.
To have more watched than the NBA Finals, you have to be feeling good if you're a baseball fan. If you're an NBA fan, this is DEFCON 1.
Big time DEFCON 1. Big time DEFCON 1. This is a code blue. This is a code red, white, and blue. Big time. So, Major League Baseball is seeing a rise in popularity, and they need to capitalize on this. Kevin, I know you're probably mentioned the World Series a little bit, but knowing that Major League Baseball has a big CBA negotiation next year and you see the Dodgers went back-to-back, what do you think this is going to do for future negotiations with the CBA?
I hope that we're getting a salary cap and or floor because after that, the Dodgers winning, there's no way you cannot justify not having one because the Dodgers, like the whole narrative of the salary cap and or floor was because if the Brewers beat them, right, then their argument is going to be like, you don't have to spend billions of dollars to win a championship like the Dodgers do. Or if the Blue Jays would have beat them, you don't have to spend as much as the Dodgers do. Didn't happen. They still won with all the money that they have and all the players that they have. And so I hope that this now confirms a salary cap and floor because I think both are desperately needed, more so a floor. But yeah, also even though I didn't like the results, that Game 7 I think was probably one of the best Game 7s I've ever seen.
Yes,
that's up there with the 2016 Game 7 between the Cubs and Indians.
Yes,
I still think that game 2016 Game 7 is the best game ever. But that game, Blue Jays Dodgers game 7, that's up there because I think it was that entertaining towards the end. And Blue Jays were this close, man. We always talk about how baseball is like a game of inches for a reason. They had bases loaded, 1 out in the 9th inning, and you can't score, albeit it was a great throw from second to first to get the force, but this close from your cleat hitting home plate to win the World Series. And Will Smith's cleat went up and then back down just in time. It can't be more close than that. And then Ernie Clement, who has now hit the most postseason hits in World Series in postseason history with 30.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like he hits one into the deep gap in left center field. When I'm watching that, I'm like, that's it. They did it. And then a great catch by Andy Pages, who just went in there for defense before that at bat, makes probably the best catch of his life. And then going into extra innings, and then the Blue Jays get another chance. First and third, 1 out. Can't score. That can't happen. I'm sorry. It can't happen. If you can't score with a runner at third and 1 out, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve to win that game. I don't care who it is. Look, Matt, we see the Yankees do that the whole season.
Oh, God.
Plenty of cases like that. So I sympathize with the Blue Jays a little bit in that sense. But at the same token, like with the Dodgers, I was like, this is why I was saying, I think last episode, for the Blue Jays to win this game, they have to make sure they don't see Yamamoto in this game. Because if they do, it's over. And guess what happened? Yamamoto comes in late in the game and in extra innings, and he's a World Series MVP. And all the Blue Jays can muster is just a ground ball double play to end it, again with first and third, 1 out. And then Will Smith, the big away homer, to not make us stay up too late and send this game over. But that's just tough, man. And like a quick little joke, I feel bad about the Yankees losing the way they did last season.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel as bad anymore for what the Blue Jays did this season. And I made like a quick joke with like some of our Blue Jays friends. And I said, how to trigger a Yankees fan? Just say Game 5. How to trigger a Blue Jays fan? Say Game 7. Because,
oh, God.
Because I think that was rough, man. Blue Jays had it. And I think, honestly, that I think when Alec alluded to it, you kind of had the feeling that this Blue Jays team was like this team of destiny. And I felt it, too. I mean, like, everything that was working right until it didn't towards the end. Like I told you guys that it's Dodgers until further notice. I said this when we did our predictions of who was going to win like before the season, and I'm right. I'm correct again. Even though I picked Jays in 7 for this series, I was almost correct again. But like Dodgers, they're a team that just punishes you, especially in extra innings. As soon as they win the extra innings, I'm like, Dodgers are going to win because it's been proven that they can beat you in extra innings. They've done it so many times. But yeah, it's just very disappointing.
They did it in the 18-inning game on Monday. They did it in the 11-inning game in Game 7. And they got healthy at the right time. I think that's the number one thing that helped them out. They got healthy at the right time. They were going into the playoffs. They were the 3 seed. They played in the wild card. They hammer Cincinnati. They go into the division series. They put up a somewhat competitive series against the Phillies. The Phillies threw themselves out of it. Literally threw themselves out of the playoffs. And then,
and what's even more surprising, Matt, is the fact that Mookie Betts didn't have a good postseason at all, and they still won.
And then
that's what's shocking.
And then the Brewers, they face them, number 1 overall seed. They get absolutely spanked. And then this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll give Toronto credit because you have no idea how badly they needed this run. This postseason for the Blue Jays might just save John Schneider's job and Ross Atkins' job.
Yes.
Snyder's job was called into question. Same with Atkins. But now these two, they are safe. And Rogers, which owns the Blue Jays, they're going to be investing more money into the Blue Jays to make sure that they finish the unfinished business next year. Ernie Clement stays put. Addison Barger stays put. They've emerged from role players to key contributors and maybe even borderline stars on the team. We know about Vlad Jr. He's going to be in place for the next 13 years. Big questions are of Bo Bichette. What do they do with him? He's a free agent. I'd imagine he wants to stay. But considering the contract that Vladdy signed, it might be difficult to fit him into the payroll with another huge contract, especially when you consider defensive metrics. Andres Jimenez was better at shortstop compared to Bichette. So you move Bichette to second base if you keep him. And what do you do with the pitching staff? Shane Bieber staying put, but do you add a number 3 starter like Ranger Suarez in the offseason? What happens with Jose Barrios? Is he a number 5 now? Because I imagine Bieber's going to rotate between number 3 and number 4 with Suarez. But your number 1 and number 2 are already set. Gosman and Yasavage can exchange spots, and you would not go wrong with that.
Right.
But this run's going to be remembered because hope is finally back in the city.
And I think Blue Jays fans, while it sucks to lose the way they did, there's a lot of positive takeaways from this season. And think of it, at the beginning of the year, the fans wanted to set the city on fire because they didn't sign Vlad to like the 7th game of the season to a long-term contract. So they bounced back in a big way. And the story of Trey Savage, I mentioned this before. This kid made his major league debut in mid-September this year. Like literally, it was right towards the end of the regular season that he got called up by the Blue Jays to start, and he's been impressive ever since. So I think there's a lot of positive takeaways for the Blue Jays. I hope they can keep this momentum going. I think they're going to be a deadly division contender for years to come for the Yankees. But we'll see till further notice. Now, Kyle Tucker, whose name has been called out a lot by the Dodgers and their fans, is looking to be a Dodger. And all I can say is that happens, Michael Conforto is probably going to be gone because Laura Antonio has told me time and time again that the Dodgers, even though they've won the World Series, they're not going to be settled with anything. They are going to be absolutely keyed in on making the team stronger and stronger than ever before. And I want to get into a quick little update alert because this literally just came on my phone. Alex Ovechkin did score his 900th career goal. I wanted to mention that very briefly because it just appeared. Well done. Seriously, well done. Because, like, amazing. Absolutely amazing. But back to Major League Baseball for more news. A lot of players have opted out of their contracts today, and some of them include Edwin Diaz, who was the Mets' primary closer. Cody Bellinger opted out. Kevin said that was kind of expected. Pete Alonso opted out. Yankees are somewhat calling his name. Alex Bregman opted out. Jack Flaherty opted out, and so did Jorge Polanco, who was a key part of the Mariners playoff run this year. He opted out. So those are just several players who have just taken away, who are just opted out of their contracts for the future. We don't know where they're going to end up. Pete Alonso, I mentioned before, wants to stay in New York. Whether or not the Mets bring him back or if he goes to the Yankees to play first base, Paul Goldschmidt's no longer going to be a Yankee. His contract is done. So there's a lot of moving pieces this offseason, it seems. John, from the managerial and executive side of things, because your specialty is executive and managerial stuff, what do you think the Yankees could do? What do you think the Mariners do without Jorge Polanco? Where do you pivot from here?
Well, when you're not the Dodgers and you don't have the money, you have to pivot. And it's really a shame that the players are opting out of the contracts and they're chasing money, which I understand.
Yeah.
But you have to go back to the basics of building and farming the old school. You're talking old school money ball.
Yeah.
And that's something that the Mariners really did well this year. And on top of winning at the trade deadline for the MLB, I think that the Yankees are going to be fine. I think they're going to be able to actually go after players that will replace and make their squad better. I think it's going to be harder for the Yankees, or I'm sorry, the Mariners, because one player is going to have a big impact, and they're going to have to do what they did in 2025 all over again in 2026, where they're chasing bats in June and July. to sign contracts to get them over the hump if they're going to try and get back into October.
And another name that has been in heavy consideration for several teams in Major League Baseball, and this is out of Detroit. Tarek Skubal's name has been mentioned a lot. He's testing the markets and seeing where his value can lie. And if we had Jake Hogger on here, I can only imagine he'd be probably flipping out, which I would understand. But Tarek Skubal's name has floated around. I think if he goes to any team, that would make them a true contender at that point, especially if it were like the Mets or the Dodgers. Like, oh my God.
Seattle.
Or Seattle. Seattle's been mentioned as well. Kevin, when it comes to Skubal and the other names that were mentioned, where do you think Skubal's value can end up? Do you think he goes back to Detroit, or do you think that he takes his talents elsewhere like Seattle, or as Alex mentioned before?
He's definitely not going back to Detroit. Detroit, we've already know like what they offered him, and that's less than $100 million. And they were like, what, $200 million apart? That's disrespectful for Skubal. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, he's worth all the money in the world. Like, I think he's getting at least $400 million, like whoever gets him. But I would think like maybe the teams that can actually afford him, like maybe the Mets or Dodgers. Like, I think the Mets probably make the most sense, in my opinion, because they really don't have a true ace. I mean, they have Kodai Senga, but he was like kind of like hurt for most of the season. Sean Manaea was very disappointing. They had Clay Holmes, okay, and then they had a bunch of other guys. Nolan McLean came in late into the season. He dabbled as a starter. He looked pretty good. But I think that the Mets have the farm pieces to be able to make a trade for Skubal. Like I saw like a mock trade where like you can trade Sproat, Tong, Brett Beatty, Luis Angel Acuna. Like, you can trade all those four guys, and that might be enough to go get a guy like Skubal. And then at least you have an established ace in there. And then you can roll and build around that. But my only concern with that is if he does end up being a Met, I worry that it's going to be like Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer all over again. Because keep in mind, before the Mets made that trade, Justin Verlander was the best pitcher in baseball at that time. Tarek Skubal, currently the best pitcher in baseball at this time. So I wonder if history repeats itself if he does end up being a Met. But I can see that he's probably that makes the most sense to me, because obviously we know how deep Cohen's pockets are. So I would think that the Mets can absolutely acquire a guy like Skubal. My only concern is, does he end up like another Justin Verlander and then you have to trade him away mid-season and then try to get him more prospects that you have to recoup after trading whatever you're going to get for Skubal? So that's my only concern.
So I agree with a lot of what you said, but going back to the Verlander and Max Scherzer acquisitions, first of all, those two guys were on the wrong side of their late 30s. That's number one. Number two, Steve Cohen does have a lot of money in his pocket, and Tarek Skubal is a very young, like you said, best pitcher in baseball. And I don't see why he wouldn't want to go to Queens. Why he wouldn't want to go to Queens. The Mets are a very big market team. They're in the city of New York, different part of town, but still. And I think that Steve Cohen has learned that this team has something going for them, and this team has a lot more talent than when they signed Scherzer and Verlander, for sure. And the pitching rotation right now for the Mets is mostly pitiful, because other than Kodai Senga and Nolan McLean, who came in late, I giggled at Clay Holmes because that was an experiment gone horribly wrong, because they tried to convert a closer into a starter, and it didn't really work out the way they'd hoped. So I think if you want to turn your rotation around, you try to go after the best pitcher in baseball, who's still young, can strike out people like a boss, and can probably jolt the Mets offense, because one of the problems with the Mets was their offense was good, but their pitching couldn't stop a nosebleed. So you do that, get Tarek Skubal, I think it would be very, very, very beneficial for this team.
Yeah.
Alec, what would you say about all that?
If you do get Tarek Skubal, then you're reestablishing yourself in the NL East Division title talks. The Phillies window is closing because you see Kyle Schwarber is a free agent, JT Realmuto is a free agent, and Ranger Suarez is a free agent. So the Phillies window is running out, and we don't know if Schwarber is going to stay or not, because another team that's linked to Schwarber is the Red Sox. Realmuto, I think he would stay. Suarez is linked to the Blue Jays in free agent talks. So the chances now for the Mets, if you want to make a significant trade that can move margins. The other question is, you're likely going to keep either one of Edwin Diaz or Pete Alonso. First basemen are less looked at in terms of free agents these days compared to other position players because the standard, the highest bar is Vlad Guerrero Jr. Alonso's not even close to that. So it'll be more likely that the Mets keep Edwin Diaz. But if they want to go after Skubal, are they going to let Diaz walk so as to get Skubal to bolster starting pitching? But we know how deep Steve Cohen's pockets are.
Yes.
So we're not going to rule out the possibility that they keep Diaz and get Skubal at the same time.
Like right now, Steve Cohen has enough money in his pocket to do whatever he wants. He's probably the richest owner in baseball, and he'll do whatever he can to keep this team afloat. I think the Mets are going to be a team to watch over the offseason. I don't think Pete Alonso comes back. I think that he's probably going to end up going across town to the Bronx, which I think a lot of people in pinstripes are looking for because, like I mentioned, Paul Goldschmidt's not coming back. So I think that's massive. And I think Tarek Skubal, we mentioned Seattle for a quick second. That's a team that I think can make a serious run for Skubal because if you look at the Mariners and what they've built over the last few years is very, very amazing. And the Mariners have the best pitching staff in baseball, not just starting rotation, but bullpen as well. John, do you think that adding a strength to a strength can make this enticing for Skubal to go to the Pacific Northwest?
I think Seattle is an attractive spot for Skubal. It gets him out of the Midwest and onto a playoff contender. If the compensation is there, I think he'll jump at the chance, especially when you consider the night and day differences there are in what Detroit had in their pitching rotation.
Yeah, absolutely 100%. Now we're going to get into a little tennis. We haven't gotten into tennis in a while, but the reason why I want to is because we have the WTA finals going on. And for those of you who want to know what's going on, Coco Gauff is the defending champion. We have the 8 women currently. That's a good background for tennis, I guess you could say.
I don't have a tennis one, so I figured this is the next.
It's fine. It's a work in progress. But we are in the round robin style of the tournament. For those of you who want to know who the 8 women are that qualified for said tournament, it is Amanda Anisimova, Elena Rybakina, Madison Keys, who was 0-3. She didn't do good at all. And then Iga Swiatek in one group, the Serena Williams group. And then in the other group, we have Aryna Sabalenka, number 1 player in the world, Coco Gauff, Jessica Pegula, and Jasmine Paolini make up the 8. Now, for those of you who want to know who's qualified for the semifinals in this round robin, because the way this goes is there are 2 groups of 4, and then the best 2 women in said group will advance to the semifinals, and in said semifinals, the winner will go to the championship, and the winner becomes the WTA champion. So, in the Serena Williams group, Amanda Anisimova, who's had a Cinderella-type year, and Elena Rybakina have both advanced to the semifinals. They both have been playing really well. Amanda Anisimova had to work her butt off against Iga Swiatek in the 3rd and final round-robin game of that group to get to this point. And Amanda has been incredible, to say the least. I mean, think of the story. Not wanting to play tennis for almost a year, maybe 8 or 9 months, comes back with the passion, and just absolutely shines. Kevin, I'm going to come to you on the Amanda Anisimova side of things. This is probably cinema at its finest. What'd you say?
Oh yeah, I mean Anisimova. I mean it's not just this tournament, but this entire year, she has been on an absolute tear. I mean, look, we saw what she did in the French Open and Wimbledon, and just this past U.S. Open, and now to see what she's doing in the WTA finals. She's continuing to electrify and boost her game. I feel like she definitely has a key against Iga Swiatek, who she just beat again. She beat her in Wimbledon, and she beat her again in this WTA final. So I think she has her number in that sense. And then it's just going to be a case of like, is she going to win it all? And it's definitely going to be interesting because Rybakina has always been consistently good. Sabalenka, of course, you know how she plays, and she's going to be playing golf. And Pegula is going to be facing Paolini, who's already out of it. So
Yeah.
Sabalenka and Goff, that should be interesting because keep in mind, Goff beat Sabalenka in the French Open. So I wouldn't put it past me to see Coco Gauff beat Sabalenka. But Sabalenka, I think, is definitely a different player when it comes to hard courts because I think she's one of the best players on the women's side when it comes to that. But I wouldn't be shocked if it was Anisimova against Sabalenka. That's my initial prediction for the last championship round for that. But Anisimova is definitely on a heater, and hopefully it continues.
Now, the way the Stephanie Graf group goes, you mentioned Paolini's out of it. She's 0-2 in the round robin. Pegula lost to Aryna Sabalenka, but beat Paolini. Coco Gauff lost to Pegula, and I think she beat Paolini as well. So there's a possibility that these three women could be 2-1 because in the final part of this, Pegula plays Paolini. I would expect it to go just like a Pegula's way. And then Coco Gauff is going to play Aryna Sabalenka. Now, if Coco Gauff were to beat the number one woman in the world, that would make things interesting. But if Sabalenka wins, then it would be Pegula and Sabalenka that go to the semifinals, and that would be juicy to see two Americans in said semifinals. Actually, this is the first time, I think, since 2002 that 4 American women have made the WTA finals, which I think is amazing. Is that first time in 20-something years this has happened?
Oh yeah, it's crazy, and I think it's great for the sport of tennis. I mean, how rarely do you see that many American women in any sort of Masters tournament like the WTA Finals? I mean, we're already craving success from the American men's side in the Grand Slams, and we're getting a little bit here and there from Taylor Fritz, Tommy Paul, Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton. Yeah. But of course, there are 3 guys that stand in all of their way, being Djokovic, Sinner, and Alcaraz. But we're starting to see the American players come into the forefront more so on the women's side, and this is just another example of it.
Absolutely, and I think this should be a very enticing WTA finals and how it ends up. I'm hoping that my Jersey girl Amanda Anisimova pulls through, but Sabalenka is always tough competition. Same with Pegula and Elena Rybakina, who's had a really good tournament. She could be kind of a surprise and a wild card factor that people aren't really looking at. So that could be always juicy. I mean, the women's division in tennis is probably stronger than it ever has been before post Serena Williams.
Absolutely.
So this should be interesting. Now we're going to get into another news. I mentioned Alex Ovechkin scored his 900th career goal, and I think John Tavares scored his 500th career goal not too long ago, Alec. When it comes to these two men, I mean, that's pretty incredible, wouldn't you say?
It is. Incredible achievements for the two of them. That Alex Ovechkin, the greatest goal scorer ever, continues going and scoring like this at this rate. We're seeing him continuing to climb up the goal sheets and expand on his record. We don't know how much that he's going to finish by at the end of his career when it's all said and done. But he's still going, and he's still scoring nicely. Tavares, he's still a leader with the Maple Leafs, and that he was able to take a significant discount to stay with Toronto and free up a lot of cap space to make up some more room for a deeper push for Toronto. That's selflessness right there. And I scored 500. And even though the season hasn't started out the way it did for the Leafs, the aspirations are still there with them. We'll see how this continues out with them. But Tavares, congratulations.
Absolutely. I mean, what an incredible milestone for both these gentlemen. Now, when it comes to the standings, and this is something that a good friend of mine pointed out, the Utah Mammoth have done very well to start the year. What do you think is working out for them, Alec?
The Mammoth, they're building on this core in which they have established ever since the Coyotes years. But they were not content with just standing pat. They want to keep building. They want to push the chips some more. And they did. The trade for JJ Peterka is working. And in spades. When they acquired him, they had the intent of making the playoffs. They had the most wins on the year, tied for it with 9. And that's because of the offense all clicking together. Andre Tourigny is an underrated head coach, so look out for that. And Clayton Keller and Logan Cooley, they're out to electric starts. Cooley just signed an extension of 8 years at $10 million per. Well earned, by the way. He's going to be a fixture on this lineup for many years. And that's what's working. The top end talent, defense, another factor. That they got John Marino back. and he is working out nicely as their best shutdown defenseman. Everything's working in place. They have a foundation set not only for the present, but the future as well.
And I think it's good to see because this franchise in Arizona, it was just bad. Like, the franchise, I think, at one point went filed for bankruptcy. The ownership looked like they didn't care. They were playing college hockey arenas in Arizona. I think if you're an Arizona sports fan, you're kind of looking at the Mammoth's early success, and you're kind of cringing a little bit because this setup that the Mammoth have right now for the future and the coaching and the fan base is just electric. You would think that Arizona would probably be jealous, but why did they care in Arizona? What went wrong?
Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And it was primarily because the fault of Alex Mariuello, who was the last owner of Arizona. And this was a franchise that cycled through many, many different owners over the years over Arizona. From its beginning up until the final days. Even they were owned by the NHL itself in bankruptcy proceedings.
Wow.
So this was a franchise that looked doomed ever since that 2012 playoff appearance. Despite the fringe playoff appearance in 2020, they looked doomed ever since that year. So the fact that they relocated, it felt inevitable at this point, and they're in much more financial stability in terms of a state. They're much more financially stable under the Smith ownership group.
And that's always good to see. Sometimes changing locations can always be good for an organization. Like, for instance, we all know about Cleveland 95 when they moved to Baltimore midseason. The Browns became very similar to that. Art Modell didn't care. He wanted to move the organization out because he didn't think fans were going well in Cleveland. But what was crazy about that was the Browns were doing well at the time. And the fans in the dog pound they were going crazy for this. And then Art Modell just pulled the plug and said, we're moving to a different city. And I think the governor of Maryland at the time signed the contract. And I think fans in Cleveland were going livid. John, when it comes to changing locations, how drastic can that be? And I think it's probably a big gamble if it does work. But I guess if it pays dividends and it works, it's worth it.
So this reminds me a lot of Seattle sports history. It reminds me of the Supersonics moving to Oklahoma,
Yes.
and how successful they ended up once they became the Thunder. Seattle does not sleep on that. We still remember. And then one of my favorite stories is how the Seahawks were packing up and moving to California. The trucks were full of equipment, and there was a vote, a public vote by the city of Seattle for an ordinance to pay for the new stadium because the owner was going to blow up the Kingdome and move the team. And then, Paul Allen came in and at the last minute and said, I will put up X amount of dollars for a new stadium in downtown Seattle if the city votes, for this ordinance and helps pay for it. So there's a famous video of Paul Allen getting up on stage after they announced that the ordinance had passed and just jamming out on a guitar, like celebrating, like the entire city celebrated. Oh, it's so cool. It's such a cool piece of Seattle history. And Paul Allen, who's a computer nerd, playing his electric guitar in celebration of the Seahawks being able to stay in Seattle and Washington. So the changing of venues, the changing of states even has a huge impact, and can be a fresh breath of air. It can be, putting to rest old history, bad history, bad blood. But there are positive stories of being able to stick it out and stay home too.
Damn, that's actually really cool. The image of Paul Allen playing a guitar just can't sit well in my head. But I do remember when the Supersonics became the Thunder, and I think Seattle sports fans don't want to think about that because that probably weighs on their mind a lot, especially now that the Thunder are NBA champions. But anyways, we got to get into our sponsor. That is DAS Technology Consulting. DAS Technology Consulting has over 30 years of IT infrastructure experience and have great customer service all across the board. Here's Darren Sirianni with more information about DAS. Take a listen.
Our approach at DAS Technology is simple. At DAS Technology, we offer a very unique approach by providing our clients a single point of contact for all their mission-critical data center demands. DAS Technology Consulting is a global leader in data center services, specializing in delivering cutting-edge, best-of-breed enterprise solutions. With a focus on innovation and reliability, DAS provides worldwide storage, server, and networking solutions that are tailored to meet the evolving demands of the modern data-driven world.
And again, thank you, DAS Technology Consulting, for everything that you do. We love the support that you've shown, and we continue to promote you every single day. And that's awesome. So anyway, welcome to hour number 2 of Foursquare Sports. Matt Sirianni, Alex Nalva, Coach John Mulch. We got a lot of NCAA football to cover. We had our first ever rankings show on Tuesday, which was yesterday. And I think a lot of changing of the guard as far as standings go. And I think that if you're a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, I think that you're going to feel really optimistic about where you are right now compared to where you were after the first 2 weeks of the season. We also got Fresh Finer Fried as well as Fresh Spreads. And we're going to build a baby. As well as our Foursquare 4-leg parlays, which I need to hit one. I'm due to hit a Foursquare 4-leg parlay. My cousin Brian keeps telling me that I lose him a lot of money, and I gotta change that. I gotta change it. Anyway, let's get right into some NCAA college football. Now, for those of you who want to know where the standings are right now and where the top 12 lie, we discussed the ratings last episode with Jake Cardinelli, but now the official rankings are out. You'll be shocked when you hear a couple of the numbers. So the selection committee has Ohio State and Indiana 1 and 2. That's really no surprise. Texas A&M is 3. Alabama is 4 over BYU, who is 7. 5 and 6 are Georgia and Ole Miss. Texas Tech is 8. John said that they were going to bolt in the top 12 eventually. There we are. Oregon is 9. Notre Dame is 10. That's big because, they lost their first 2 games. They've won 6 in a row. Texas is 11. Oklahoma is 12. Utah is 13, Virginia is 14, and then Louisville is 15, and then Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech are 16 and 17. Miami is 18 and most likely out of the conversation. So, Alec, you were not here when we discussed rankings by the selection committee at this point. What do you make of the numbers? What do you think of the teams and where they are right now?
I feel that in terms of the teams that they are right now, Ohio State's the obvious number 1. We know that. Indiana, number 2. That makes a lot of sense. The top 3, in fact, they do make a lot of sense from the standpoint of what we're looking at. Ohio State, Indiana, Texas Tech, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That's the obvious top 3 of the bunch. Then this is where it gets interesting from here on out between Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Texas Tech. Texas Tech deserves to be on here.
Yes.
And Notre Dame bouncing back from 0-2 at the start of the year to getting the number 10 spot in the first rankings from the College Football Committee. Yet they have to feel good now from where they're looking at. First team out being Texas. We didn't have them at this point from the start of the year, but they got a significant boost in part because 3 teams above them fell out. That being Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, and Miami. But also because they got another top 25 win against Vanderbilt. And that head-to-head win over Oklahoma could also help them if they were to make it to the playoffs. The last team in, Oregon. They may have a more challenging second half, and the committee is about to learn how good they really are. So far, their best win was against Northwestern. They passed the eye test, but the opponents have a winning percentage of 47.2%. So the jury is out for how good they actually are.
And I'm looking at the top 12 right now. You really have 3 conferences represented in the top 12. Like BYU is probably the lone representative in that Big 12 that can actually legitimately make the college football playoff, Texas Tech aside. But I think BYU can win the Big 12. Ohio State or Indiana, I have Indiana taking the Big 10. SEC, Texas A&M stands alone, but I think Alabama can make a run for it. Okay. Thank you. The ACC is looking very, very weak, and I mean very, very weak. Like the best team out there is Virginia, and they don't even crack the top 12. But Virginia, Jake Cardinelli mentioned it before, is very, very good. I mean, Georgia Tech losing to NC State is definitely going to hurt the ACC's standings right now. I mean, there are going to be 5 conference champions in there, but when 3 conference champions out of the top 12 are in there, and you're looking at maybe the ACC being one of the weaker conferences out there, the ACC doesn't look good at all. And Virginia, of all teams, we didn't expect them to be at this position at this point in the year, but you got to be impressed with them. It's going to be interesting who that 5th conference champion will be. Maybe it'll be Southern Florida or North Texas from the AAC, which a lot of people are saying is getting a lot of recognition because the Mountain West fell off. John, when you're looking at these teams right now, does it make sense to maybe award an ACC a playoff berth, or do you think that we should stick with top 12 strictly based on rankings?
Well, I don't know if you remember last year, the ACC fascinated me because Clemson was the better team, but then SMU actually won the championship. A lot of people said that Clemson should have got a bid on top of SMU. But I am completely smitten with North Texas this year. They're one of the highest scoring offenses in college football.
Yeah.
I think Virginia definitely has a chance to be in the mix. I would not count out Miami. If Georgia Tech loses to Georgia, then that gives the door open for Miami to be in the mix for the ACC championship and actually play Virginia, and that would be a really, really interesting championship game. And then one of those teams gets in, as far as I'm concerned. If I had my choice, I would like to see Texas Tech and BYU in. They play this weekend, and I think that's going to be a really, really interesting preview for the Big 12 championship. I think Texas slams the door on them.
So Texas Tech is interesting, and we mentioned this before. The team that has the billionaire athletic director at this point in the year, and look at where they stand. They're right behind BYU in the Big 12 standings. They could knock off BYU from the undefeated ranks. That's just how talented this team is. I'm looking at their stats right now. I mean, they have one of the best points per game scored, 43.5 points per game. Solid on points against teams per game. They average only 13 points given up per game. Their yards per game, they average over almost 500 yards a game. And then their third down efficiency, they convert third downs nearly 50% of the time. I think a lot of people are sleeping on
having
these
one of the
numbers.
best. They have one of the best defenses in college football.
Oh, 100%. And this is Kevin's conference, so I know Houston Cougars fell out of it thanks to West Virginia beating them. But as far as the Big 12 goes, you see Texas Tech and BYU in the mix here as possible playoff representatives. What does that say about the Big 12? I think a lot of people kind of sleep on that conference.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like definitely the Big 12 conference gets a little bit underlooked when you look at the teams in there. I understand, BYU and Texas Tech, that's going to be a good game to watch. But also, yeah, I think when you have a team like I'll say Houston again, Houston's not a football college, but then you're actually competitive into this conference, and then you start to see sort of the competitive nature that this conference truly brings. And when you add Houston to the mix, Arizona State has been doing good, going back to last year and then coming into this year. And then you add in teams here and there like BYU, Texas Tech, and all that. And I think the Big 12 is probably going to be one of those conferences, especially in the football sense, that's going to be a competitive division for years to come. So I wouldn't doubt if a Big 12 team gets into maybe the top 5. I think BYU or Texas Tech are just that good.
I agree 100%. I think, no offense to Georgia and Ole Miss, they've had great seasons, but I wouldn't be surprised if BYU or Texas Tech propels into that top 5. The question is, can one of those teams get into that top 4 and get a bye? Mm-hmm. Right now, I think Indiana and Ohio State are set as far as teams that are going to get a bye. Really, the question between those two teams is who's going to win the Big Ten, and I've said it before, I'm Hoosiers all the way. The SEC can be interesting because even though Texas A&M is undefeated and they've played really good football, I think that Alabama has something to offer. Their schedule is easy. At their last game of the year, they play at Texas, which is not a joke. Texas is number 11th in the country, and the SEC they're a really good they're a really good conference all around. I mean, I'm looking at the standings right now. Alabama is second in the conference, but then like Ole Miss is not too far behind. Georgia's not too far behind. Hell, Texas has 2 losses in the has 2 losses overall, but they still have a chance to maybe make the conference championship. My opinion is if it's Texas A&M and Alabama in the SEC championship final, I would think Alabama could win that conference. I think they can. Even despite everything they went through last year, this team can still make some noise. John, would you agree?
I think the SEC is hands down the best conference in college football.
Yeah.
I'm actually really impressed that Texas A&M is the top of that conference. And the way that that conference is split east-west is really, really interesting because you get a lot of teams that don't play each other till the conference championship.
Right.
Texas A&M has a tough game against Mizzou this year or this weekend.
Yep.
And Bama hosts LSU, and I expect LSU to kind of get a little bit of a coach bump, and I think there's a possibility that Bama gets upset. I'm sorry, Sammy, but it has to be said. I think Bama wins, but I think it's a lot tighter, more competitive than people are going to think.
Well, there's another reason as to why there's a possible upset brewing for Alabama, and this is actually kind of a serious note. Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson posted to social media and said that his mother tragically died of a stroke earlier this week. Such a terrible circumstance. He will most likely not play in said game against LSU. I know that if any football athlete or athlete in general was put in this situation where they lost a parent, I would probably sit out a game as well. So Ty Simpson, like I said, who's played brilliantly this season for what it's worth, ever since the FSU loss, will most likely not play. God bless the Simpson family. Not good circumstances to be in.
Prayers,
big time prayers. So I want to go over the big games as far as this week is concerned because there are 2 games that we each have in mind as to what could be our game to watch in week 10 or week 11 rather of the college season. So I'm going to come to Alec first. Alec, if you had to pick 2 games from week 11 that you're keeping a close eye on, what are they and why?
Right. So key games from week 11 that to look for. One of those games I'm looking at is Oregon and Iowa. As I mentioned, that this is going to be the first test for Oregon to see how truly good they are. I know it's against Iowa, but Iowa's a ranked team. They're number 20 in the nation right now. So Oregon will have to look out for this look out for this opponent to see if they can pass this test. The other game that I'm looking at, and admittedly, this is gonna be a closer game and the spread is gonna say Georgia versus Mississippi State.
Okay.
Because Mississippi State, in my eyes, is not just some scrub team that Georgia's gonna walk all over. No, this game is at Mississippi State, and chances are that Georgia's gonna find it tougher at Mississippi State than they are at their home field. The Mississippi State Bulldogs are for real this year. Gone are the days of them just being a walking doormat in the SEC. They'll put up a fight against the Bulldogs. How close it's going to be is up for question, but they're going to put up a fight.
All right, John, I'm going to come to you next. I think you mentioned a game or 2, but what are the 2 games you're keeping an eye on this week and why?
So my favorite game would have to be the BYU Texas Tech game.
Yeah.
I would be at that game in a heartbeat. I think it's a preview to the Big 12 championship, and I think the atmosphere is just going to be absolutely electric with both teams vying for the top spot in that conference. And then I would love to go to the LSU Bama game. Would be my second choice.
Nice. All right, Kevin, you're next. 2 games that you're keeping an eye on this week and why?
Yeah, one of them, again, I'm agreeing with Sean, is BYU Texas Tech, obviously, because my team has the interest in that. I think John's correct in saying that could be an absolutely preview to the Big 12 championship, as both of these teams are insanely good. So that should be interesting. Second one I look at is A&M against Missouri. And Missouri, again, like kind of like when Alec alluded to Mississippi State, like Missouri's no slouch either. They're also a ranked team at 22. So it's another big test for Texas A&M to see if they can beat a ranked team in Missouri, because Missouri can surprise people. So I think that Texas A&M and Missouri is going to be another good one too.
I like it. Okay. So my 2 games I'm picking and why. The first one, this is actually a sleeper game. I'm going to say Memphis and Tulane. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the AAC. I think I mentioned before how North Texas has been very good this year. John mentioned that as well. North Texas is on a bye. I think Memphis, them being ranked number 22 in the country, I think they got to prove themselves. Tulane has been no slouch by any means necessary. And I think that just goes to show how deep this conference is. And I think that Memphis, if they want to prove themselves, they've bounced back from that UAB loss. And I think this is a good way to stamp yourself as a team to watch out for. And then the second game I'm looking at right now, and this is actually one of my underrated games, Wake Forest and Virginia. Again, another contest where ACC, very good. Virginia at the top of the helm, conference record-wise. Wake Forest is very, very good for what it's worth, being a 5-3 team. Virginia is only a 6.5-point spread favorite in this game. And I would be surprised if Wake Forest puts up a fight. They absolutely are capable of doing so. Okay. So now, with that being said, before we get into our fresh spreads, which we're going to build, we're going to get into something that I like to call the 4-square 4-leg parlays. We haven't done those in a long time, and I'm due to hit a 4-square 4-leg parlay. Believe me, I've lost people thousands of dollars. I need to bounce back. Okay, so the way we build these 4-square 4-leg parlays is we pick 4 spreads, 4 games, or 4 money lines, whatever we want. It could be a combination of sports if we want to, as long as it's a 4-square 4-leg parlay and it happens over the weekend. So I'm going to start off with Kevin here. What is your 4-square 4-leg parlay of the week?
So I got a little bit of everything. So I'm going to start off with the NFL. I got one. Steelers, Chargers, Sunday Night Football. The spread is the Chargers -2.5. Give me the Steelers +2.5 on that game. I like the Steelers in that matchup. Second one, we got college football, and I alluded to it earlier, BYU against Texas Tech. The spread that I have pulled up is Texas Tech -10.5. Give me BYU +10.5. I like the points there. I think BYU is that good. NHL, we have of course the Canadians at the Devils, and the line right now is actually no. The over/under is 6.5 goals. Give me the over on that one, because New Jersey, for mostly this part of the season, they scored at least 3 goals or more offensively, and I feel like Montreal is going to do the same thing. So give me over that 6.5. So okay. I got that one, and for my final one, we're going to go to college basketball, and I think this should be a slam dunk. Give me UH over Towson, because they've heard rubs this entire month, so that should be an easy one. So that's my 4-square.
I like that one. All right, John, you're up next. What's your 4-square 4-leg parlay of the week?
I don't know if I can compete. He picked one different. He had different. That's cross-platform sports parlay right there.
Yeah.
I went straight college football. I took Liberty money line, TCU money line, Texas A&M -6.5. Oregon -6.5. I don't believe in Iowa. They tied in really well, but I don't think they're going to score a whole lot. So I went to Oregon to cover the spread, and probably the under, because I don't see Iowa scoring a whole lot.
Okay, Alec, what's your 4-square 4-leg parlay of the week?
All right, much like Kevin, I'm going to do a true 4-square 4-leg parlay where it's a bit of everything. All right, one for each sport. And I'm going to start off with the NFL. Detroit Lions at Washington Commanders. Lions over 200 total rushing yards.
Like that?
Yeah, to start off. NHL, Carolina Hurricanes at Toronto Maple Leafs. Seth Jarvis gets 1 goal and 1 assist in the game. NBA, Houston Rockets at Milwaukee Bucks. Alperen Sengun over 28 points. Yes, I know that's a bit specific, given his jersey number, and 6 rebounds. And now, switching things up, MLS. We're going full here. MLS. Seattle Sounders at Minnesota United. The winner being Seattle Sounders. Exact final score 2-0.
I like that. I like it. Okay. So I'm going to do my fourth square four-leg parlay. I'm going to try and do a little bit of everything here. The Giants at the Chicago Bears. The Bears are a 4.5-point favorite. Give me the Bears minus 4.5. I've kind of just given up on the Giants a little bit, so I'm going to take the Bears minus 4.5 here. Sorry, Kev. Canadians and Devils. This is Thursday Night Football. Give me the Devils and Canadians over 6 total goals. On Thursday tomorrow. So over 6 goals for the Devils and the Canadians on that one. Next up, we have some basketball. I'm going to go to college basketball, actually, because I love college hoops. Let me see here. Where's Rutgers? I'll give me Louisville. No, hold on. St. John's. I'm going with St. John's, Alabama. I'm going to take the over on that one. The over is not here on Yahoo Sports, but I'm going with the over on that one as far as points go. Both these two teams have very electric offenses, and putting them in a matchup, I think you're bound to see a bunch of points. I think you'll probably see like 140 points total. Give me the over easily. And then finally, last but not least, I'm going to go to college football. Give me Indiana minus 14.5 over Penn State. So why do I say that? Because Indiana, I mentioned it before, the only challenge they have is covering those spreads. They're going to Happy Valley this week in Penn State. I think it's going to be easy. Penn State has given up, and I think that Indiana runs the table completely against the Penn State Indy Lions. So to recap, Bears minus 4.5. Canadians and Devils over 6 goals tomorrow. I have the St. John's, Alabama over, and I have Indiana minus 14.5 against Penn State. That's my 4-square four-leg parlay for the week. And please, win some money. Don't go bankrupt on me. Please. I don't want to be the cause of going into debt.
You better hope the Giants don't jinx you and suddenly do good.
That would be a killer. Then my cousin would be calling me and ripping me a new one. I don't need that. Okay, now it's time for one of my favorite segments of the show. It's time for Fresh Breads, idealized by Talarcios. Let's build it, baby. Okay. We are going to go into our spread picks. We're going to start off with Thursday Night Football. We got the Raiders at the Denver Broncos. Jacoby Myers is now no longer a Raider. Broncos favored by 9. Kev.
Broncos and Raiders. I have Broncos in this one. I think that the spread is a little high. I think that the Raiders, make it close, but Broncos should be winning this one.
Okay, Alec.
I'll say Broncos as well. That at the Raiders trade away, Jacoby Myers signals that they're treading towards a rebuild. After 1 year of Geno Smith, they may need to move on from him.
All right, John.
I just watched the Jags barely beat the Raiders by 1, and the Broncos barely beat the Texans by a field goal. I'm going to take the points. Give me the Raiders.
You know what? Despite no Jacoby Myers, I might as well just go with that route. So I'm taking the +9. I think the Raiders, even though they're not as good, they know how to keep games competitive. And I think that's the ultimate thing that people got to understand. Next up, we're going to go to the Sunday 1 o'clock slate. We're going to start off with the Atlanta Falcons at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts minus 6.5. They got Sauce Gardner. Kev?
Yeah, Colts. Actually, that's an 8:30 a.m. game for the way I see it. Falcons.
Oh, that's right. It's in Berlin. That's right. Right.
Yeah. With that being said, with the acquisition of getting Sauce, I feel like Colts should again win. Daniel Jones looked like he was the Giants version of Daniel Jones. I'm hoping he bounced his back this week against the Falcons, and we'll see how it goes. But I think Colts should bounce back and win.
Alec?
Oh, by the way, they're in Berlin.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I cannot speak German, so...
I can't either.
Well, it's such a hard language to figure out. Anyway, who's down to lasso up some Falcons? Give me the Colts.
John?
I'm going saucy. Colts have Sauce Gardner on Drake London. Give me the Colts.
You're going with the Colts. Okay, I'm taking the Colts as well to complete the sweep. I mean, the Falcons are good, but now that you add Sauce Gardner to your secondary, I mean, this should be a no-brainer, and the Colts should bounce back. Now we're going to go to the 1 o'clock games now. The Buffalo Bills are traveling to the Miami Dolphins. The Bills are a 9.5-point favorite on the road. Kev?
Yeah, Bills should easily win and should easily cover.
Alec?
Well, let's say this. After last week, I'll say, well, the Bills could beat the Chiefs 10 straight times in the regular season. I still question if they are if they're truly Super Bowl ready. But still, Buffalo, they look the best that they've had over the last 2 weeks after the bye, granted. And I know I still have those questions, but here I say Bills win, but Miami covers. Here's the twist.
Okay. I like that. John?
The one thing the Buffalo Bills cannot do is defend the run, and I think HN goes off and has a great day, but I believe the Buffalo covers. Miami just gave up one of their best linebackers to the Eagles. So I like the Bills.
I'm taking the Bills minus 9.5 as well, and you do have Devon Achane on your fantasy team, so that's why you're saying that. That's part of the reason why you're saying it.
Of course you say that. Yeah.
Of course you say that.
Oh,
We're going to go for fantasy later. All right, sticking to the 1 o'clock games, we got the New York Giants at the Chicago Bears. Bears minus 4.5. You know where I'm going with this, Kev. Where are you going with this?
Yeah, I'm going to go Bears too. But I know Jackson Dart's going to be fine, but the rest of the team isn't. So Bears.
Alec.
Well, I'll just take the Amtrak and head towards Union Station over there. Bears.
John.
I don't know. Can the Giants defense get into the video room and watch how to tackle a spin move from Colton Loveland?
Oh my God.
I'm gonna have to go with the Bears.
All right. Next up, we're gonna go to the Ravens at the Vikings. Ravens minus 4. Kev.
This one's kind of a tricky one because, I know Lamar's back, but also the Vikings, they're finally throwing it to Jefferson in the end zone again. So maybe the Vikings have something up their sleeve. I remember they're coming back a little bit. But I still think the Ravens, I think that they probably win this one. I think they win. I don't think they cover, though. I think Vikings make it that close.
Ooh, okay. Alex?
Yeah, I know Lamar Jackson came back, and the Ravens absolutely needed that win over Miami in any way possible.
Yep.
The Fins just sort of gave up, but even though something in me tells that Miami's going to keep it close against Buffalo because Buffalo can't defend the run to save their lives, something in me now tells that Minnesota may have the personnel to limit Lamar because Brian Flores is one of the better defensive coordinators in the league. Now, Lamar Jackson is one of the best talents ever that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But I have the feeling that Minnesota may be firing back after that win against Detroit. That's a confidence booster that can help any team in any way. You know what? Give me the upset. I'm going Minnesota.
Ooh. John?
This one, I agree with Kevin. This one was tougher to me than it should have been. But you can't, even if you're Brian Flores, you can't stop Lamar and Derrick Henry. So I think this is a Derrick Henry game. I'll take the Ravens.
Tough one. I'm going with the Ravens, but the Vikings cover. That's how I see this going. So that's how I feel. Next, we have the Cleveland Browns at the New York Jets. Who wants to watch this game? I'm going to it. Browns minus 2.5. Kev?
Welcome to the Sears version of the toilet bowl, everybody. Browns Jets, where the Jets have sold off their 2 best defensive players. So if you have anybody on the Browns offensively, you're in luck because the Jets defense is bad now. So, forgive me, Browns. I think that spread's too low, in my opinion. I think it should be higher than that after that trade deadline that the Jets had. So Browns, even though that they're a bad team, I feel like that might be a Quinshon Judkins game now because now they don't have their best run stopper in Quinnen Williams. So I feel like Judkins should be easily good to go in that sense. So give me the Browns.
Okay, Alec.
As Kev alluded to, this is going to be a Quinshawn Judkins game for what we see this. After the Jets trade away Sauce Gardner and Quinton Williams, they are basically just waving the white flag. We thought Breece Hall was going to get dealt. We thought Jermaine Johnson was going to get dealt. We're going to have to wait a few more months. After they're eliminated from contention, we're just going to have to wait for them and see when they're going to get traded. Not if they're going to get traded, when they're going to get traded. Anyway, Browns win, cover, and essentially eliminate the Jets from playoff conversation for a 15th straight year.
Unbelievable. John?
I would absolutely love, after my 5-minute tirade on the Cleveland Browns, see the Browns lose and the Jets have this nightmare where they don't get the number 1 pick anymore. Having said that, I think Cleveland wins. Even though Dylan Gabriel can't see over his offensive guards to throw the ball more than 4 yards. What's the over under on this?
38.
See, I think that's your bonus bet. Like if your heart gets broken and you don't make any money on our parlays, go put a bunch of money on the under on this game.
Put $1 million on the under. Put $1 million.
Yeah, no.
Okay. I'm going to this game. I am dreading this game.
Oh, you
But
are?
give me the Browns. Give me the Browns because actually I do gotta send that rant to John now that he mentioned it. I gotta send that rant to John. The Browns, even though they're a disaster, they're much better than the Jets, and the Jets get eliminated from playoff conversation. This team is just absolutely dreadful, and they just basically threw in the towel and basically said, I surrender!
Yeah, that's how it feels like.
That's how it feels like being a Jet fan. Next up, we have a really good one. We got the New England Patriots at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucks minus 2.5. Kev?
Yeah, like you mentioned, this would be a good one. It's a really tough one to call. Patriots, they've got one of the best teams in the AFC this year with Mike Vrabel as the new head coach. And the Buccaneers having themselves a pretty good season as well. So it's a really tough one to call. I think, is Bucky Irving good to go for this game? I saw he was questionable at one point.
He's still questionable. We're still waiting.
Okay, so I think it depends on if he's healthy or not. If Bucky is good to go, then I think maybe Buccaneers win. But the Patriots, I really like their offense too much. But I do think the Buccaneers can make it close. But I think Patriots win. And I think that I like them to cover.
Ooh, okay. Alec?
If you ever doubt Baker Mayfield, that's your first mistake. If you doubt the Patriots, that's your second mistake. If you're Tom Brady, who do you root for?
Yeah.
Do you root for the team that you played 20 years for, or the team that you won a Super Bowl with in the twilight years of your career? That's the interesting question. These teams are good. Mike Vrabel has turned the Patriots culture around and has made them into a playoff team like we thought they would. It helps given the easy schedule that they had, but this is their first true test of the second half of the year. Tampa Bay has been there. They've done that before. Now, here, I feel Tampa Bay is going to be battle tested, but I feel it's going to come down to one thing: Bucky Irving's health. But regardless, they should be good to go and to overcome a Patriots unit that's been quietly one of the best defenses in the league. Well, this is more than just easy schedule. They're actually one of the best defenses in the league. But I feel Baker Mayfield is going to have enough juice in the tank to go out and lead the Pirates to another victoire royale.
Arrgh. John?
I'm on the opposite side. I am 100% a believer in the Patriots. I think Stephon Diggs is coming on, getting more chemistry, more than just with like all the 4 girls, baby mamas he has. I like the Patriots here. I'll take the points. I think the Patriots win straight out.
I think the Patriots win outright as well. I think that this team is way too talented to lose to Tampa. Tampa Bay is good, but I don't think they're as good as New England is. Next up, we got the New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. Panthers minus 5.5 at home. Kev?
Again, we've always talked about the Panthers and how much they've surprised and upset good teams. But this is against the Saints, who are not a good team. They've shown flashes that they can be close in games. This is not going to be one of them. Give me Panthers to easily cover and win.
All right, Alec.
Well, the Panthers, they've been a surprising team. Now they are an extremely flawed team compared to what their record suggests. But the Saints, the roster constructed, their high end talent can only do so much to keep them afloat. And the fact that they traded away Rashid Shaheed is better for their long-term plans compared to just wasting another year of him and letting him walk in free agency. That said, Carolina wins, and they get some barbecue afterwards.
Okay. I like that, John.
I agree. I think the Panthers shocked the world when they beat the Packers last week.
Yeah.
And I think that without Shaheed, with Kamara, a ghost of his former self, I don't believe in the Saints. And I think the Panthers win by 7.
I think that margin is right on the money. I think they win by 7. I'm taking the Panthers. Next up, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. Jaguars -1, and here's why. CJ Stroud is out with a concussion, will not play this week. Kev?
Now, in recent years, we know that like the Texans and the Jaguars is pretty much one-sided and always the Texans' favor. In this case, like especially with the CJ Stroud news and like with the emergence of like how decently good that Jacksonville Jaguars have been, and now you acquire a guy like Jacoby Myers, I feel like going up against this Texans defense, who is really good, mind you. This Texans defense, I think, is one of the best defenses in the league, and I think is underrated in that sense. So I think it should be a close game, and I think the spread is also right on the money. But I do like the Jacksonville Jaguars in like a close shootout, but I think Texans do make it very close. So give me the Jags.
Now, Davis Mills is the backup quarterback for Houston. Alec?
Oh, hey, welcome back, Davis Mills. It's been a while. Well, Jacksonville is sneakily good, though hasn't been that way in a while. After they beat the Chiefs, they've staggered downwards. Things have been close with the Raiders, which isn't really the best confidence factor heading into a game against a Texans team that is seeing CJ Stroud be out for this week because of a concussion. But it is going to be tight, and as Kev said, the Jags squeak this one out. I'll say let's give it 2 points, so they barely cover.
Okay, John?
I think this is a much more Jags game than people are giving them credit for. They finally have a receiver that can catch the ball. And I like their defense against the Texans O-line. I think they get to Mills a little bit and it kind of annoy him. And Chubb hasn't been good. So hands down, Jags.
I'm taking Jacksonville as well. I think Davis Mills is not good enough to be the next man up for Houston. I think Jacksonville wins easily. Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. No Kyler Murray. He's on IR with a foot injury. Seattle -6.5 at Lumen Field. Kev?
Now, we saw last week against the Cowboys, or not last week, a few days ago on Monday Night Football, how good Jacoby Brissett was, like, with the Arizona Cardinals, like, in absence of Kyler Murray. And he was looking pretty good. And I was really more impressed with that Cardinals defense. And so I'm curious to see how this Cardinals defense fares with Seattle's high-flying offense. Now with the new recent acquisition of getting Rashid Shaheed, along with how good like JSN has been, I feel like Seattle does carry that into this game. Although Cardinals defense, I think, is definitely one to monitor in this game. But I do think Seattle definitely covers and wins in the end.
Worst fourth quarter defense in the NFL belongs to the Arizona Cardinals. Alec?
Well, Arizona's defense is going to be up and down as it's always been the case. Fourth quarter how does a fourth quarter defense be as bad as the Cincinnati Bengals defense? I mean, you dominate over the first 3 quarters, and then you simply forget how to play football in the fourth quarter. That's what frustrates me the most about the Cardinals. If that continues against Seattle, then you're doomed. Plain simple as that. But this rivalry does tend to get close. If you remember back in week 4, it looked at first to be a Seahawks victory, but then it got close because Arizona was storming back because by law, every game between Seattle and Arizona needs to be decided by one final score.
Yep.
So knowing this logic, Seattle wins but does not cover.
I like that logic, John.
See, my take is a little bit different. People got a really good look at Jacoby Brissett. They were playing against a secondary that had more holes than my Swiss cheese on my sandwich from earlier this afternoon. And you don't have that with Seattle. Seattle is stacked on every position on defense. And if you can shut down MBS, then you're only throwing to Trey McBride, and if you limit him, then you're winning the game. I think Seattle covers by a mile. I think the volume on Sam Darnold being MVP, the volume gets raised a ton after this win. And I think Seattle welcomes Shaheed with a touchdown.
I'm going to say Seattle wins but doesn't cover. I think they can win by like 6. There's something in me that just says, like Alex said, the Cardinals and Seahawks always play competitive games. They always do. And with that logic, I can't ignore it. I mean, Arizona, even though they're 3-5, those 5 losses that they have are by 4 points or less. And I think that that's a really big stat that people need to keep in mind of. They're very good, but they can't finish games. So I have the Seahawks winning but not covering.
They're just such a tease, the Cardinals.
Big time tease. Next up, we got another NFC West matchup. We got the Rams at the Niners. Rams minus 4.5. Kev?
I still have no clue why the Niners are 6-3 with all the injuries that they have and how they're able to do it. But the Rams have also been a really good team, and Matt Stafford is having sneakily a pretty good year, along with Devontae Adams and the like. And the Niners, I mean, of course, the good news for them is that McCaffrey's finally healthy this season, and coupled with the fact that they're getting George Kittle back. So that's another good thing that you like to see. And Mac Jones has been surprisingly better than Brock Purdy this season whenever Brock Purdy was hurt. But I think overall, as a complete team, I think the Rams should be winning this game by probably a touchdown, I would say. But I wouldn't be shocked if Niners do make it a close game.
Alec?
Well, NFC West games are so hard to predict because every single one of these games are usually close. Doesn't matter how good the opponents are. In recent years, that's been mostly the case. But LA and San Francisco make things tight a lot of times.
They do.
Between McVay and Shanahan, we would not be surprised if this is another one of those cases. Earlier this year, the Niners came out on top on an overtime thriller. I don't expect overtime again, but I expect this to be decided by a field goal again. This time, it's going to go to LA, so the road team is going to sweep both games. So LA's going to win, but like the last time, it's going to be decided by field goal, so they're not covering.
All right, John.
I agree with that. What most people forget about that overtime game is that San Francisco won because the Rams went for it on 4th and goal, and they didn't do a tush push, and they didn't get across for a first down. So it wasn't because the 49ers won. It was because the Rams lost, as far as I'm concerned. I think this is a field goal game too. I think after watching such a strong game against the Giants, I think the 49ers keep it competitive. Give me the 4 points.
I'll take the 4 points as well. But I do have the Rams winning outright. I think that the Rams win, but they don't cover. Next up, we got the Lions at the Commanders. Commanders minus 8. Kev? Oh, Detroit minus 8. Detroit minus 8. Excuse me.
Again, if you would have asked me who I thought would have won maybe like a few weeks ago, I would have given you like a much closer case for the Commanders. But after that gruesome injury that we saw from Jaden Daniels, and he's possibly going to miss the rest of the season, I mean, like, it just sucks for Commanders fans. I mean, like, I think this is an easier decision, and Lions should win and easily cover. And I think, like Alex said, I think they're going to have a better ground game in this game, like with the Commanders and all that. And with that injury, so yeah, it's just a shame. Again, prayers up for Jaden Daniels. Wish him a speedy recovery, but Lions win this one.
And you got my dad's best friend Marcus Mariota taking the snaps for the rest of the year. Alec?
Oh, I'm just already cringing at the fact. Lions, I know the Lions are going to win big on this one, but if they turn Jaden Daniels and turn him into RG3 in real time, I'm going to be sick to my stomach.
Yeah. All right, John.
I don't know what curse is on that field, but this is the second time the Seahawks have taken out a Commanders quarterback, RG3 being the other one.
That's right.
Don't remind
But
us,
there's
John.
a lot of ghosts, a lot of blood on that field. And Luke McCaffrey is out for the rest of the season as well.
Right.
Right.
So they just brought in Treylon Burks. I don't think that adds anything. I'm gonna have to take the Lions, as sad as it is for the Commanders.
Lions -8 easily.
This is
Next up, we got
nightmare
Sunday Night
scenario.
Football. We got the Steelers at the Chargers. Chargers -3. I'm gonna go with Alec first.
Well, after that win over the Colts, I'm not particularly confident. I mean, you force 6 turnovers and you escape with a 7-point victory. That will never sit right with me, because when you get 6 turnovers, you're supposed to beat them up. I know for the fact that this team has never been the same ever since Dan Rooney passed, because RD2 only cares about the brand. Dan Rooney cares about the sport, and that's the difference between the two of them. Now, the Chargers, they are finding their footing, but they are struck with bad news. Joe Alt's out for the rest of the year.
Yep.
And that's going to put a damper on this offensive line. They have already been shuffling through offensive tackles ever since Alt got hurt the first time. What more hexes must he put on this team? Oh, my goodness. It's just whatever bad luck is going through them. Now, granted, I'm going to say Chargers for now, but I would not be surprised if we squeak this one out, given and that our defense found a turning point last week. We decided to put Jalen Ramsey at safety, given the injuries that we have at safety. Deshaun Elliott is out for multiple weeks, but Ramsey did excel at safety, and he's comfortable staying there for the time being as a temporary solution. How we're going to cycle through this, we've yet to know, but Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig look good in this free edge rusher rotation between these two and TJ Watt. So it's going to be close. I'll say Chargers for now, but we cover.
All right, Kev.
If you paid attention to the 4-square 4-leg parlay, I already made this my first leg of the parlay and said Steelers +2.5. And I'm going to stick by that because of the points that Alec mentioned. The Steelers defense is still a good defense, and the Chargers losing Joe Alt is definitely going to put a damper on their offensive line. The big question is going to be how both secondaries are going to fare, because the Chargers have a ton of weapons, and with the emergence of Gadsden as their one of their top targets as their tight end who's emerged this season late in this year, along with Quentin Johnston coming back around and adding McConkey and Allen in there, the secondary has definitely got the work cut out for them. But I do feel like if they can get to Herbert early on in the game, then I think the Steelers do have a legitimate shot. So I like the Steelers +2.5 there.
All right, John.
Give me the number 1 quarterback in the league. Give me Herbert. Give me the Chargers.
I'm taking the Chargers as well, very easily -3. And last but not least, we got Monday Night Football. We got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Green Bay Packers. Packers -2.5. Tough one to call. Kev?
Yeah, you said it. Tough one to call. Eagles are still the Eagles, and the Packers are looking like one of the best teams in the league in the NFC. Even before acquiring Micah Parsons. And I think this one is going to be another big test for the Packers, because this is an Eagles team that we just saw add 3 defensive players and bolster that defense that was already pretty good. And for the Packers case, you have obviously like the bad news of losing Tucker Kraft for the rest of the year. I do expect a guy maybe like Luke Musgrave to take a step up and upticks in the tight end position. I think it'll be a great battle on the running back, like Saquon against Josh Jacobs. This one will be close, and I think the spread is right on the money. I think it will be a field goal game. I think the Packers win by a field goal. I'm taking the Packers here.
All right, we got to go quick, Alec, really quick. We got to get the first round of red.
What are the Packers? What are the Packers? I don't know what team they are. Are they a true contender, or are they just a extremely flawed team? what are they? What is Jordan Love? I mean, the Eagles are still the Eagles, and Howie Roseman did address key weaknesses at the trade deadline, which has me thinking was him going all in. Does he have mob ties or something? Because I don't know how teams are able to still deal with the Eagles and him being convincing them to trade with them and him getting away with it. Jalen Phillips adding on to this pass rush, but in fairness, it is a necessity, this pass rush. And then you go out and add Michael Carter II, which is a need at corner because they've been ailing at CB2. Jaire Alexander, probably not, because he's just a name by this point.
Mhm.
But I still have no idea what the Packers are. We might not have an idea what the Eagles are, too, but the Eagles should be better. Eagles squeak this one out.
All right, John.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me no more. No more. What is love? Give me the Eagles.
All that hype and build up for
You
Sandy.
put a Pat McAfee.
That was such
Respect.
a tease. All right, next, I'm going with the Eagles as well. I just think the Packers at home. They've lost to two fraudulent teams. I think the Eagles are just too much for them. All right, that's our fresh bets for the week. So I gotta get into Fresh Found and Fried next. It's my favorite segment of the show. For those of you who don't know what Fresh Found and Fried is, it's a segment where one of us goes on event for 2.5 minutes, and we say whatever's on our mind, and we go on a scale of Fresh Found and Fried at the end of our take, which means fresh for good, fine for okay, and fried meaning, dude, that take reeks so bad you might have to get out of the industry. I have Fresh Found and Fried this week, so I'm going to go first. 2.5 minutes starting now. Okay, so when it comes to the sports curses out there, I think of the curse of Bobby Lane. I think of the curse of the Billy Goat for the Chicago Cubs. I think of the curse of the Bambino. No team has been cursed more in sports history than the New York Jets. And it all stems from 1969 when Joe Namath made a deal with the devil prior to Super Bowl III, saying, if you give the Jets this championship and you give me this title, you don't have to give the Jets anything else for the rest of my life. Joe Namath is, I think, 83, 84 years old, one of the best quarterbacks in Alabama history. And after the Jets won 16-7 in arguably the biggest upset in Super Bowl history, being the Colts 16-7, the Jets have been pitiful ever since. They have not even gotten even close to the Super Bowl ever since Super Bowl III. And it's not even just the lack of success. Look at the quarterbacks they've drafted. Ken O'Brien. They've had Richard Todd, Tim Tebow, Mark Sanchez, Vinny Testaverde, Neil O'Donnell, Ryan Fitzpatrick. The list goes on and on. Zach Wilson. Like, it's just been pitiful to watch how bad this Jets organization has been at not just the quarterback position, but also from a coaching standpoint. Rex Ryan, Bill Parcells, Pete Carroll for 1 year. Oh my God, the list goes on and on again. Al Grove for 1 year. Oh God, the guy from the Dolphins, I can't remember his name. The guy who looked high at his press conference. But anyway,
Mike McDaniel.
Not Mike McDaniel.
Adam Gase.
Adam Gase, thank you.
Adam Gates, okay.
Adam Gase. So the Jets have been cursed for a long time. I don't think that there's any shot this team can really get back to relevance unless things change. Now, I'm not suggesting that Joe Namath should die because of this, although Jet fans are telling me all across the world, Joe Namath should die in order for us to be successful. This comes after Nick Mangold passes away from tragic death, and I think it's just horrible, the fact that Jets fans are calling out the greatest Jet of all time to pass away because he put a curse on the Jets. The Jets are a terrible organization. I think it's because of bad financial decisions, bad organizational decisions. And to me, this team will never win unless they get good management, but it doesn't take losing a legend to cause your team to change success. That's it. All right, Kevin, Fresh Found and Fried.
I think it's fresh. I mean, I think there are other teams, not just the Jets, that are like, you can say are like cursed and all that. I put the Mets up there too because of like all of their mishaps and all that. But definitely the Jets, like definitely one of up their top 3 cursed organizations, because it's like you said, like the front office has not been good like for years. All the quarterbacks, not just even the Browns, you could say as well. But keep in mind, this is the same Jets organization that had a chance to draft Warren Sapp and
Yes.
didn't draft him. And Jets fans, understandably, were mad, and I can understand why. Now, with these recent trades, like trading away your two best defensive players away, at initial response, if you're a Jets fan, is like, what are we doing? But then you look at the return, and then you kind of feel a little bit better about it. But at the same time, yes, you get all these draft picks, but are you going to draft well? And it's the Jets. And his past history has told us that they're not going to draft well. So I'm worried about that. But absolutely, in that sense, definitely fresh take.
Okay, John, fresh find or fried?
I believe it's fresh. And there's a couple of things that I want to say. I don't know if I heard you mention now felon Mark Sanchez. But the decision making in drafts and who you hire as a coach for the Jets has been more about the splash and the headline in New York City than it has been about talent.
Yes.
And I'll go all the way back to the Jamal Adams trade. They got amazing capital for Jamal Adams, who went to the Seahawks, and they had one really good number one defense year the next year and didn't do anything with it afterwards, and are now in the process of rebuilding for the 50th time. That was my post on Twitter today. Like, the Jets seem to be always rebuilding, and this is like the 50th version of their rebuild, and they're doing it with a coach that I don't necessarily believe in. They're doing it with an owner that goes to Madden for player rankings. It's just really, really hard for me to buy into what the Jets are trying to do and believe that they're actually going to do something useful and positive with all this draft capital that they acquired in a matter of hours yesterday. So definitely fresh. If you want to go and sacrifice Namath and burn his coat on a pier like Viking style, I'm here for it.
Okay, Alec, fresh find or fried?
I'll say it's fine, but I want to one up on this matter because I know the Jets are cursed, and we talk about cursed franchises in sports, such as the Bills, Vikings, Lions. But how about one we didn't mention? The Seattle Mariners. The thing is that they made the playoffs 5 times and 6 times now in their franchise's history. But the worst part about it is that we don't even give them enough credit among the list of franchises that are the most cursed whenever this pops up. Yes, fans still celebrate Ken Griffey Jr. stealing home in 95 to win a wild card 1-game playoff to get in the playoffs. They still celebrate the Edgar Martinez double. They celebrate the Cal Raleigh home run still to this day. The record-breaking season 2001 of Ichiro after Griffey is gone. They still remember those moments. What about the 20-plus years in which they didn't make a postseason? This is a team that longed for playoff baseball to come back to the city. And the countless, and I mean countless, defeats at the hands of the Oakland A's back then.
Yeah.
Before they saw Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh emerge into franchise fixtures. Alex Rodriguez, come and gone. Felix Hernandez, wasted. Kyle Seager, wasted. Randy Johnson, traded to Arizona because he was too old and immediately won 4 Cy Youngs in the World Series. This team has to be up there as the most cursed franchise in all of sports, given and that they're the only team to never appear in the World Series. And they have not made the playoffs for most of their existence.
Yeah, big time. That's well put. I couldn't even think of the
Thanks for rubbing that in, Alex. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Alex.
Catch his trays.
Anyway, want to give a shout out to My Kid Solutions Optical Payments for everything they do for our partnership. But anyways, from Matt Sirianni, Alec Nava, Kevin Zosco, John Walsh, we are Foursquare Sports. Take care, everybody. This has been episode 23 of Foursquare Sports, which is sports at sports. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Hi, everybody. Christopher Mad Dog Russo here. And you know what I do? Foursquare Sports on Sunday nights, 6 to 8, with all those parts of the country taken care of. Listen all the time. You got it. Mad Dog on Mad Dog Unleashed. Listen to my guys. Listen to my guys.